Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast, the podcast for wildlife habitat management, hunting strategy, and land stewardship. And now, your host, Jared Van Hees.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast.
I'm your host, Jared Van Hees, and we're here to become better habitat managers. What's going on, everybody? We have a great podcast for you here today. We have the Deer Camp podcast with Andy Hutchins and Beau Martonik. Beau has a great podcast called the East Meets West podcast. He's been doing this for quite a long time, and it's a really enjoyable episode. We talk about some food plot updates and logging updates about Hutchie's Farms. We talk about Beau's camp. It's been in the family since the early 90s. We talk about camp and different hunting styles in the Pennsylvania mountains. A little bit about podcasting and scouting camps, how we can learn to get better woodsmanship out there. Tell a great deer hunting story from 2020. Some Pennsylvania camp traditions. Great episode for you here, guys. I hope you enjoy here. Deer Camp Podcast over here at the Habitat Podcast. I am currently on my way north to the Northern 70. I got the 3 kids in the back. My dad's meeting me up here. I think I have 3 chainsaws, the tractor, the grapple. I have some simazine, some glyphosate. We're doing a few different things this weekend. First things first, we're having a dozer tomorrow morning. We're going to reshape the road down to the belly of the beast. Without that road, I cannot do anything on the property. The road is really my bottleneck and the most important thing on this 70 maybe at this time. So my friend Josh is meeting us up there with a dozer first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to reshape the road, and then we're going to reshape the upper landing deck, which is about 1.5 acres, 2 acres. And the way the guy pulled the logs out while he was here for a year, the upper landing deck really creates a large funnel to funnel water right down that road. So we're going to reshape that, block off the road from all that water draining down there. We're going to either stop it, give it a place to pool, and push it off in different directions. That's the number 1 goal for the weekend. Number 2 goal, I'll call it 1B. We're pretty close to really getting everything clean. I shouldn't say we're pretty close yet. By the end of the weekend, we'll be close to having all the fallen timber from the ice storm clear of the roads and clear of the food plots. So my dad, myself, the tractor, and the grapple. I think my buddy Pat is coming up tomorrow for the day. Andy might even be here on Sunday. We're going to finish cutting trees all day long and clearing the roads and clearing the food plots. That does not talk about any of the trees that are falling in the woods with the tops and everything else from the logging. That's just going to remain a tornado zone in the rest of the woods. Open canopy everywhere. But we need to be able to get around and need to be able to plant this food and keep the deer coming into the 70. Keep drawing them in from miles around. It worked great last year. We're going to do it again this year. So those are the 2 main goals. Get the road cleaned up and shaped up, and then get the rest of the property free and clear of ice storm damage, which are all 12-inch to 14-inch hard maple falling right where they don't need to be. So it's not like we're cutting pine or something easy. It's going to be a heavy load. While I'm up here, I mentioned simazine. I'm going to be planting RC big rock switchgrass to help the watershed on the top landing deck. So there's some prep that's going to go into that. I'm going to be spraying, and then I'm going to be disking, and then cultipacking with the Packer Max, and then downburst seeder loaded with switchgrass, putting it down exactly at the rate I want it to, and then packing it back in. We should get some rain coming up soon. So I want to start this process of really screening the property from the road even more, and getting this, this filtration system of the switchgrass in the ground, where right now it's compacted soil from the loggers and shooting that water downhill. I'm going to get all this grass in there. It's going to help erosion and help the watershed immensely. So that's goal number 2, or 3, if you will. And then 4th, I have 8 apple trees to cage. I got some old wire I found on Facebook Marketplace in the trailer right now in the bed of the truck. We're going to cage those 8 trees. I might even irrigate them. They're within reach of the cabin, so I might irrigate, set up a timer and a system to irrigate those apple trees and make sure I get 100% success this summer. And then last but not least, if I have time, there's a pile of topsoil from when we built the cabin. I'm going to grab a lot of that topsoil and move it out into the field and create a garden for pumpkins. We did this last year with a little bit of success. We had like 6 pumpkins, and I didn't really try very hard. So I'm going to try hard this year, and the kids and I are going to plant a bunch of pumpkin seeds and have something to show this fall if the deer don't eat them all in the meantime. Maybe I'll have to fence that off too. I'm not sure yet. But that's kind of the plan for this weekend, guys. I know there's some more stuff going on up here that needs to get done. I do want to thank everybody on our Patreon group. We've been having a lot of fun on the Marco Polo. We got a couple new members here this week. Corey's one of them. Thank you for coming on, Corey. And we're just really excited to keep that group going. If you want more habitat all day, every day, you need to join our Patreon group. $10 a month, help support the podcast. We're going to be doing some giveaways. You get some merchandise. It's really kind of a wash at the end of it money-wise, but the knowledge gained in the Patreon group has been awesome. We've been doing that for probably about 6 months now. We're also going to do our Patreon hunt in West Virginia this fall. Welcome to Patreon members. And then kind of leads into the Habitat Day coming up August 9th. Going to have it at the HP 40, Southeast Michigan. More to come on that. I'm going to plan that. I got a lot of work I'm getting done out there right now to try to host a bunch of people and show you guys what I've been doing on the HP 40. That's August 9th. Again, more to come on that in the coming weeks. Last but not least, I want to thank everybody who's given us good reviews on the Apple iTunes. I'm sending out more decals here soon, so if you haven't got yours yet, don't worry, it's coming. And then I want to thank our partners and everybody who's been supporting our partners throughout the podcast here. We couldn't do it without you guys as well. And then we'll be talking about Vitalize here soon. Carbon Load will be in stock and shipping. It already is, but we're going to highlight that here soon along with some new products coming out this fall. I hope you all have a great weekend. Be safe. If you're in the woods like me this weekend with a chainsaw, be sure to wear your chaps. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Habitat Podcast.
Hey guys, Al here, Vitalize Seed. I hope you all are doing well. So we got a lot of new things happening at Vitalize this year, and I wanted to highlight some of those. First off, we got a brand new website. We just added a chat feature to that website so you can get your answers to your questions in real time or as fast as possible. Those actually come directly to us so we can answer those questions, as well as has some auto answer features for those frequently asked questions. So trying to further increase the customer service that we offer. Number 2 is we are offering bundles now. So we got a lot of questions about people trying to piecemeal things together. So we took the guesswork out of it for you. You want a fertility bundle? Add that to your cart, and it gives you all of our natural fertility products in one place. We also are adding bulk pricing. So been asked about this in the past, and we've done some, kind of one-off things. But for those people who are buying, 5, 10, 15 acres, depending on the product, we're going to be offering some bulk pricing options for that. So right now we got that up on Nitro Boost. We also are going to have that up for the Clover, Chicory, and Oats offering, and might expand that to other offerings as well. Other things are new products. So we got our annual Clover. That's a fantastic product for frost seeding and also for this early spring, especially for those who still want to plant Nitro Boost. They want to get that annual Clover established. You could go in and drill your Nitro Boost right through it, broadcast through it, mow it off, spray it off, etc. We got our Premium Clover Plus. I'm using that on all my logging trails. That's a fantastic product. I'm also using that often with our Clover, Chicory, and Oats mix. So I might use Clover, Chicory, Oats in the first year on my logging trails like I did last fall. Let those oats come in, they'll die off, and then I can frost seed my Premium Clover and Chicory over top of those trails now. So those are areas where I want a perennial crop growing. So I'm using that mix. And then we added our brassica mix as well. We, of course, have our seed feed and seed armor. Those are selling fantastic, and various other products, guys. So please check us out at vitalizeseed.com. We sure do appreciate you, and we're looking forward to a fantastic 2025.
All right, we're back. Another episode of the Deer Camp podcast. This week we have Mr. Deer Camp, Beau Martonik of East Meets West. Beau, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Other than I'm sitting in my car right now down at the beach looking at the lake, and it's raining. It seems to either rain or snow now. That's all we get. It's rain or snow.
Yeah, I hear you there, man.
It's supposed to be sunny and nice, but oh well, such is life. How's your day going?
Oh, pretty good. And just actually Mondays are like my big podcast editing day to get everything done to go out on Tuesday. So I'm in the midst of doing a bunch of editing, and it's actually sunny here, which definitely want to be outside because we get brief moments of sunshine in Pennsylvania too, with mostly cloudy rain and snow. So
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Where are you at in Pennsylvania?
I'm in northern Pennsylvania, like kind of when you look on a map and you see where there's not much as far as towns or cities or roads, I'm right there.
Okay. That's a perfect spot to be. That's a perfect.
Yeah.
I like that too. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So do you live at hunting camp then?
No, I do not. I mean, my hunting camp is close to where I live at. It's right down the road. So most people have to travel a ways to go to their hunting camp, but I'm very lucky that I can be there in minutes. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the camp I grew up going to was that way. We never stayed there. It was like more of a social camp, but you would, we were like 15 minutes away. Everybody would show up after hunting and go eat dinner. And it was way cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So how long, let's talk about that. How long have you had the camp, the lineage, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So our deer camp, my grandfather bought it when it was just like, it was basically where porcupines and raccoons lived in this little shack that had holes in the floor and the roof and everything. And I believe it was 1990 or 1992, something like that. But we've always had deer camps in the family back into the 50s. But as far as like the one we currently have and go to, it was like early 90s when he bought that camp, and we've put a lot of work into it over the years. It's still, I mean, there's still no running water or anything there, but it's a lot nicer than it was, that's for sure.
Okay, you're saying yours isn't like Johnny's then?
It's not like Johnny's. No. The complete opposite of Johnny's. I love both for each of their own unique reasons,
Dude, absolutely, man. There's the times I love being out in a tent or in like the cargo camper, or there's times I like being in the bougie, lodge. They all got their place, I think.
They 100% do, man. I like all of the above when it comes to it, and it's funny, like I've realized as much as I get older here and got to experience some cool stuff with either going camping places or backpack hunting or deer camp. Like I like a mixture of all that I can, I don't want all just roughing it all the time. It's having some amenities isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree 100%. Oh man. So you've been at this a long time. Let's start back to when you started your podcast and everything.
Oh yeah. It's been 8 years. No, what is it? 2018, 7 years. Yeah. 7 years since I started it there. The podcast, the first one actually went live July 1st of that year in 2018, but right around this time in April is when I really kind of got everything set up and I started recording episodes at the end of May. So it was, it's crazy. It feels like yesterday, but it also feels like a lifetime ago when I started at the same time.
Okay. That's cool. Cause you do a lot of Western hunting as well.
Yes. And that was the main focus of the podcast when I started it was I started Western hunting and I wanted to learn more about trying to get better and at Western hunting. So I wanted to interview people that were a lot better than I was. And when I started doing those Western hunts, I learned that I just started sharing it on Facebook and Instagram, and a bunch of people that had either followed along with me or friends and family were like, man, I wish I could do that, but I don't have the time or money. And I was like, man, it's not as difficult to make it happen as you think. You just got to plan and prepare for it. And that was where I was like, well, if I put a headset on and one, this allows me to talk to people that I wouldn't otherwise be able to talk to, and two, be able to help others out in the process and to be able to find their own adventures. Cause like Western hunting for me completely changed my life in the trajectory of like what was possible in the places that I could go to. As someone from Pennsylvania that was never west of the Mississippi prior to going elk hunting in Colorado, it was like, I grew up in a small town. I didn't travel a whole lot when I was younger, and now, I travel a lot, and I love it. And that was opened up to me from hunting.
It's funny. We have a pretty similar story in that I grew up in a small, northern Michigan town, beach town, and hunted here, but never made it. Still have actually been west of Mississippi, but didn't travel a lot as a kid. But now, yeah, same thing. The hunting has brought me into. I mean, I've been, you name it, in the Midwest, I've been there. So yeah, it's hunting's awesome in that aspect, and then the guys you get to meet along the way is, absolutely amazing. And I saw, what was it? You just did a podcast with Lee Lukoski, and I saw you put up a picture of you and with him and Tiffany back. Must have been quite a while ago, because you were a baby faced kid in that one.
Yeah. That was it 14, 15 years ago, something like that. At the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, went and stood in line to get to meet him and get a picture. It was really funny how that kind of went full circle, and getting to interview Lee, which he was such a great guy to be able to talk to, and so nice and welcoming. Like, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, he's been in all of our living rooms for many, many years on the TV.
Yeah.
Just a fun guy to watch. They're great people.
100%.
Yeah. How's everything going with Timber Ninja? Because you guys got hit by that hurricane, right? I mean, pretty much wiped it out.
Yeah. So it was end of September of last year. Hurricane Helene hit, most of the East Coast there, and if you saw it on the news, Asheville, North Carolina, really got hammered bad with historic flooding. And Timber Ninja is located in Canton, North Carolina, which is like a little mountain town outside of Asheville, about 20 minutes outside of there, and just the whole town got flooded and ruined. And so, like I said, I don't live there, but Jason, founder, he lives there, and as well as other people that have helped out with Timber Ninja. And thankfully, none of their houses got destroyed or anything, but the actual building of Timber Ninja was completely underwater. I think it was 10 foot of water or so that went through there, lost absolutely everything. And as a small business to begin with, it's not like there was just, boatloads of money flowing around there. You're doing everything you can to make ends meet in it as it is. And then to have something like that happen is really, really difficult. But luckily we are rebuilding now, and we'll have product again this summer and some new stuff coming. So it's a rebuilding phase, which has been really tough, but I believe we'll come back stronger from it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And it sucks all at the same time. I mean, yeah, I guess people don't realize how hard it is to run a small business like that. I'm a small business owner, same thing. I can't, something like that happened, I don't know how I'd recover. So I understand.
Yeah, man. What I've learned too about product-based businesses, I'll definitely maybe rethink it if I get the opportunity to do it again, because it's just like there's so much variation and pricing and manufacturing and trying to figure out how to do that, and insurance and margins and all the fun stuff that comes along with it. But it is really cool though to see a product come to fruition after testing it for a while and going through it, and see it go out there and people use it and hopefully like the products. And it's pretty satisfying, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Any new products you can tease, or is that everything hush hush?
Oh, well, I can give you a little bit.
Okay.
So one we've teased a little bit, actually for the last like year and a half. And that was one thing that I think people get mad at us because, well, typically we think we can get a product out faster than it's actually possible. So we tease things way too far ahead.
Yeah.
And then when's this coming along? When's this? And the reason for kind of teasing some of it is to one, kind of get some feedback and see what people think, and be able to show kind of behind the scenes that these products, we don't just think them up one night, get them made, and then release them to the public. They go through a ton of iterations and testing. But the one that's really excited about is a hybrid platform that is unlike anything else that's out there, as far as there's no post on it. And just the way it attaches to the tree and everything folds up super flat and compact, but gives you as much foot room as you'd have on a tree stand, but at a weight of like a saddle hunting platform, and be able to, and yeah, I can't go any more detailed than that right now, but it's, I'm super excited about that. So
Dude, that
we
sounds
will, yeah. And then we got another new saddle coming down the road there, and some changes to some of our pockets. One of the things that myself and others, as far as feedback with it, we were making our pockets out of a material that was super durable and tough, but it would be loud when you'd rub up against a tree with it. So had to find a quieter material and something that has a little bit of stretch to it, make the pockets slightly bigger, so it wasn't so difficult to get things in there. But just taking feedback and kind of, modifying some of the products there. But we're so we've got that coming out, making an adjustment to our original saddle platform, the ledge as well, adding some better grip to it, lightening it up a little bit, and I was still keeping the 350 pound weight rating on it, make that thing nice and burly. So
heck yeah, that's awesome. You just did a scouting camp a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, that was the last weekend in March.
Okay. How'd that go?
It went awesome. It was those scouting camps, we started doing them 4 years ago, and it took me a couple years to even get the, I guess, courage to want to do it. I was like, who's going to want to come and, listen to us and go through it? But they've become my favorite weekend of the year, because what I've learned is when you have an event, so the scouting camp, basically, for those that don't know, is just like, it's a 2-day event where I do a mixture of classroom and in the field scouting. It's all just scouting big woods and the mountains to try to find mature buck and hopefully have a chance to be able to kill them. And the way I wanted to do it was, I didn't want to just be me up there talking, because I don't know everything. I feel like I'm successful in certain avenues and other things I don't know. And so I tried to find people that were good in all different areas, and almost treat it kind of like a podcast would be, where, we have a panel of, there's 8 of us that are speakers that are up there, and we go through the different topics, and everyone's kind of got their own input on it, because, as you know, deer hunting, there's not one right way to do anything. So it just gives, depending on who's there in the audience and what kind of style hunting they want to do or they like to do, maybe they resonate with 1 or 2 guys more than the rest, and that's okay. That's what's cool about it. But we go through kind of the basics and some of that information in the classroom, and then where the magic really happens is we e-scout a place, and then we go out in the field and actually scout it, go through the sign, what kind of sign would set up on, all that stuff, then review the notes and kind of create a hunt plan. It's just kind of like a whole system from beginning to end. But since I started doing those, I've never met a bad person that has come to it, or someone I wouldn't want in my, deer camp. And that's what's really cool about it, because to go and sign up for something where, you're essentially going to learn from somebody. The problem sometimes is in hunting is egos are large, and people, I don't need to learn. Well, you don't get those type of people that come there. It's anyone that's like, I'm there to want to learn and hang around other hunters and talk hunting for 2 days and just have a good time. And it's really cool to be able to have that aspect.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just sat on Kevin Vistason's head of Deer Hunter Collective a couple weeks ago, and I think it was actually the same weekend, and sat on the panel, the live podcast panel for that. And yeah, same thing, because the amount of people that, if you're coming to that, you're invested and you want to be there. So you check your ego kind of at the door, I think.
Yeah, man. And it's like, and the other thing I've learned is, like, when you have, one, it'd be almost impossible to make something like that where it was free admission and be able to give that kind of experience. But 2, when you put something behind a paywall, you're only getting people that are serious, that are invested into it, and they're going to make the time to be there and make it everything that they can be. And that to me is, I know even for myself, if you were to be like, hey, Beau, you can learn how to make your podcast blow up on YouTube by going through this free course here. It's like, okay, I might start it and then I won't, sometimes I won't finish it, or I'll get busy doing something else. But if I put money down on that, you better bet your ass I'm going to finish, go through it and get my values worth out of it. And I think that just at the end of the day, you get more out of it that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I learned that the hard way last year. I did a habitat day at our family farm, and I did it for and it was the same thing. I had a lot of people leave like halfway through because they had no skin in the game. They'd had enough, and so I exactly know what you're talking about. Get the people there that really, really want to be there.
Yep, that's exactly right. And it's funny, I've talked to Kevin about it, and him and I talked right after that, the collective there that you guys had, and he was telling me how awesome it was. And he's like, dude, I want to come out and see your camp next year. And like him and I shared similar values and thoughts on that.
Yep. Yeah, Kevin's awesome. Kevin actually where he moved is like he's only like 5 minutes from me. 5
Oh,
minutes.
really?
Oh, yeah. We were friends before on social media friends. Yeah, we hang out all the time. Our kids are like best friends. I mean, it's a
nice.
good family. Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, he was telling me about that. I said, well, I'm probably gonna have to try to piggyback along with you then.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're going to a deer camp, that's my thing.
Yeah, I know. I love the idea too behind the podcast, man. I wanted to tell you that. Like, I think that's super cool. And I think the more people that are kind of screaming that from the rooftop and being able to continue this heritage along and be able to pass that along to more generations. I mean, I think it's a necessary thing to do.
I appreciate that. I mean, I just know it's what I look forward to every fall, man. I remember being a kid, like I'd have my shit sitting out ready in September. And I'm talking just going to rifle camp the middle of November. I was ready to go, do deer drives and have bacon and eggs on the wood fired cooktop thing. Yeah, it was, it's my thing for sure. I love it. And then the people you meet coming out of it, you talk to guys like you who's, you've been a big influence on deer camps forever.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. You are making me sound kind of old.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you're not as old as I am, so you're good. But yeah, funny. No, that's cool, man. That mountain buck thing. Nolan Taylor came out to it this year, and I did a podcast with him a couple weeks before he came out, and he was so jacked about going. And I go, man, that does sound like fun. I'm gonna have to get out to one of those.
Yeah, man. Nolan is super cool. I really enjoyed hanging out with him and getting to spend some time with him. Like he's a good guy, and he's an example of someone that just wants to learn and continue. Like, yeah, I had a really good time. Yeah, we had a couple guys from your neck of the woods that were out there.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Well, let's get into some deer hunts here, man. Or actually, it doesn't have to be a deer hunt. If I ask you right now, what is your most favorite hunt you've ever been on? Doesn't have to be a kill. What would that bring up for you?
Oh man, I don't know if I have I could say a favorite, but one of the most memorable ones, and I think it kind of ties into the deer camp side of things, was back in 2020 where I was sitting at deer camp with my dad and Johnny Stewart and some of my other family members there. And Johnny's basically considered a family member at this point because he's always there. But we were sitting there, and both Johnny and I still had tags in our pocket, and we're like, geez, man, this is kind of a tough year here. And we were both kind of out struggling. And I think it was him that was just like, let's just hunt together. And instead of going out and doing our own thing and have fun with it, maybe do a couple wind bump drives and just hang out. And he's like, I got a good spot. He's like, but it's really tough to hunt, just by myself there. He's like, we could go. And he's like, your dad can go and do some wind bump drives to us through some spots. He's like, I know it gets a lot of pressure on the top. So I think they'd be on these side hills. And so I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we went out that day and went to a couple of spots, and there was a bunch of people, and ended up going off the edge of this point. And it was funny. We were walking down there, and my dad was going to do he was just going to wind bump and wrap around the side of this point. And we were walking off the edge of it, and there was like a hard edge of some hemlocks to some oak trees down lower. And Johnny was like, yeah, there's this big 9 point here. I haven't had a picture of him in months, but he goes, I think he's still in here. And Johnny's half deer. So, there would be nothing else that would tell you that deer's still there other than Johnny's like, I just feel like he's here. And so we just went down, and he's like, I'll sit up here in the top third. He's like, you drop down lower and find a spot on that bench down there. So went down, and it was whenever we're doing like deer drives or wind bumps or anything, usually the pusher, when he gets pretty close to us, we'll have him kind of give some yips, some yells a little bit, just so we know where he's at from a safety standpoint. Yep. And I started hearing my dad. I was like, oh man, he didn't really push any deer out. We're at the end of this drive, and all of a sudden I see this chocolate just rack, like it literally popped out at like 20 yards. And I'm like, holy cow, it's a big deer. And it's just turned around looking back, because this deer just wanted to get back into that cover. He wasn't going to run out across that open point, and he wanted to circle him to figure out where he was at. And I just put the crosshairs right on his chest and shot him at, like I said, 15, 20 yards. And he piled up right there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just shot the biggest deer of my life, like just out of nowhere how this happened. And I barely had enough cell service, and Johnny calls me, and he's like, did you shoot one? I said, yeah, I shot a huge deer. He's like, is it that big 9? I said, yeah, it is. Where it got, so he comes, and my dad, and we're all, excited, and just couldn't believe it. And this deer was just ended up aging him at 8.5 years old, like just an old deer.
Oh, wow.
And we, and so I'm like, all right, I said, let's quarter him up and pack him back up over the hill. It was a long way back to the truck. And Johnny's like, no, we'll just take it down across the creek, and me and your dad will drive around. You drag him down. He's like, we want the whole body at deer camp, which that's always a dilemma of like, it's easier to pack them out, but there's nothing better than having a deer hanging at camp, the full, body too. So he's like, this is something special. You need to take the whole body out. It's like, all right. Well, but I remember, I said to him, I said, I'm pretty sure that creek that you're talking about is like a river. Like it's pretty deep. And he's like, oh yeah, it'll be all right. And I told him, I said, hey, I got a set of waders in my truck. You can use those to come back across. I'll just get wet when I go over. He said, okay. So I get down to it, and it's like, I don't know, 120 foot across, maybe more. And deep. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And Johnny gets across, and then the waders I gave him were leaking. So he's like, all right, how are we going to get across? And it was flowing pretty fast. So I said, I took some paracord and I tied the deer's antlers to my belt loop. And he's like, well, he's like, the deer goes down, you're going down too. And I said, yeah, I'm not losing this deer to the water. Like that's the way it's going to be. And it was, snowy and cold, and it ended up making an epic story, but kind of sucked in the moment of like going across, waist deep water, trying to get across this river and getting them out there. But it was so cool to get that there, and then to take them back to camp. I did go home and shower first because I was frozen, and went back to camp, and from my family members and friends and just other people around town quickly heard about the deer and came. There was just there was a ton of people coming in and out of camp just to see the buck that night, and to me, like those moments and just everything about that was so incredible. And I'll never forget that hunt. I had a guy that had reached out to me. I did some woodworking stuff, and he's like, hey, I want to do a plaque for you on that deer. He's like, what do you want it to say on it? He's like, I'll put, the score and your name and stuff. And I was like, well, I said, I want my dad and Johnny's name on it too, because like that was a group experience. It wasn't about me on that. I was the lucky one that pulled the trigger, but it was about all of us that were involved in it.
Guys, I want to tell you a little bit about my friends over at Morse Nursery. I've been planting Morse Nursery trees from their nursery here in Michigan since I've been doing habitat work on the 15 acres. Right before I sold the 15, I had my apple trees budding and dropping apples. I had my chestnut trees dropping chestnuts, my crabs, the pears. Guys, Morse Nursery has been around for a very long time. Charlie Morse used to run the show, and man, their tree stock is unbelievable. MorseNursery.com. Fall is the time to place your orders for the spring. Whether you want chestnuts, persimmon, apple trees, pears, oak trees, or any tree and shrub protection. They even offer a survival kit for $10 that will warranty your tree. You do everything right and it's still, you get the drought or whatever, you still have a warranty. Morse Nursery offers that. Guys, they have starter bundles. They have a hardiness zone map on the website. Morse Nursery is my go-to spot for wildlife trees. I'll be picking up a load of the oldest trees I can get and bringing them down to a client of mine in Iowa and Illinois here very soon. I think if anybody's interested in cold hardy trees, tough trees, good genetic trees that have stood the test of time, check out MorseNursery.com. We even have a code. If you're on Morse Nursery's website, you want to save some money, use code Habitat10. That's 10% off. We even also offer some dealer pricing. Habitat Podcast, we are a dealer for Morse Nursery. If you're interested in getting a good a good orchard set up on your property, let us know. We'll be happy to help. Guys, check them out, MorseNursery.com, Habitat 10.
And to me, that was super special. And I love, a lot of times we get, at least myself, I get so into, hunting a specific deer or just like the solo endeavor of hunting, which I do love that part of it. But there's something special about being able to do that with family and friends and have those shared experiences together.
Yeah, that's my absolute favorite part of deer camp is the hanging the deer on the buck pole. And then, people finding out, especially if, it's a real good one, people are stopping by and checking it out. You're maybe having a beer. That is, that is where it's at right there. That's the holy grail, I think.
Dude, it's everything, man. That to me is everything when you get to do that and have it there. And even when other people that come to camp and they just drop the tailgate and they have it there. And also when you have multiple bucks there and everyone's standing outside, it's cold to go inside to warm up a little bit, come back outside. Usually the beer does help warm you up a little bit as you go through. But to me, that part is so much fun. And it's funny you talk about the buck pole. We've had our camp for a while, but our buck pole kind of sucks. We need to work on building that a little bit better. It's on a spot where it's right next to the camp between two trees, a big board that's nailed to there with a winch that you almost get shocked every time because you have to hit the battery terminals together to get the winch to pull up. And then it's on an uneven surface there with a bunch of stuff where you're always tripping and falling around it. So we just talked about that. We're going to try to make that a little bit nicer, something you can even pull your truck in, underneath it and just, pull it out that way or something. But I always I feel like Michigan is one of the places that has some of the best buck poles, where you get the big ones where you can hang multiple deer across it and everything. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting fewer and farther between, that's for sure. At least the private ones. You still got the, the public buck poles and all that. But I remember being a kid, you would camp hop around here.
Mm-hmm.
You go from one camp to the next, see what they had on their pole. We always had, or still do, I don't make it there nearly enough, but have an opening night dinner, have a big prime rib dinner opening night, and meet all the members, plus everybody be coming, stopping by, having ready for the next morning. And that just good times, man, and just good people, salt of the earth people.
Yeah, dude, the camp hopping thing, that's something we don't do as much anymore because there's not as many as there used to be at camps, but we'd always do that before opening weekend when it used to open on Monday, is go talk and you'd see people you wouldn't see all year and go check them out. And then that Monday night, after the opener, just drive around and just look at what people have on the poles, just kind of being nosy, like, well, what did that camp got? Even people you don't know. And then it's like, you see a big buck there, you pull in, hey, congratulations. Like, that's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah. It's making me feel like it's November right now. It's raining and nasty, and I feel like I should be sitting at deer camp right now having a beer.
Yeah, man. It's funny, like deer camp. Another thing I always think about with deer camp is it's never a comfortable temperature in there. It's usually my grandpa has the wood stove like just absolutely stacked to the point where you have all the doors open and sweating. Yeah. But that's kind of how it is. Then like the other room will be cold, and it's just like it's tough to regulate it.
I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's either 110 degrees, it seems like, in there, or it's, you go to the back part and you got to get a sweatshirt and a coat and you're freezing your butt off.
Yeah.
You guys got any like traditions that you guys do every year?
Well, trying to think of so it's funny. I was asked this the other day about like food traditions, and we always eat, we have like a dinner the night before opening day of gun season, but it's not anything specific. Like sometimes it might be pizza, sometimes it's cooking up steaks. Like it kind of goes in spurts what we do exactly there. But the one thing with our camp is like we use it so often because it is centrally located close to where we're all at. We use it through archery season. We use it through the summer and everything. But we do one thing that we have a TV up there and a DVD player, and old Monster Bucks DVDs are playing on it pretty regularly. We also put a pretty good cycle of Whitetail Adrenaline DVDs that'll go through there as well now. But there's something about those old Realtree Monster Bucks DVDs that are fun to watch.
Oh, dude, absolutely. The videos that made you think that there were big deer everywhere and it only took one sit to kill them. I love those videos.
Yeah. And the absolute like worst reenactments in the world. It's just, I love it. It cracks me up. But I guess one tradition that we have that is that it was funny because when we first did it, I remember being like, man, this looks kind of ugly, where my grandpa started tacking pictures on the walls. And I was like, yeah, they're not really protected. They're just, tacked onto the walls. But it's become this thing where like multiple walls on our camp are covered in just photos. And usually in a pen at the bottom is written, the name and the date and, where they shot it at. And it's become, whenever new people come to our camp, they sit there and look at photos for hours and ask questions. And it's a really cool tradition to, be able to hang that stuff up there.
It's funny you say that. The camp I grew up going to, same thing, photos all over the wall. And every time like I'll stop there, I'll show there's a particular set of photos. One is with a deer that I shot and I regret not ever weighing it, but it was a giant, old, didn't weigh it or get it age. It was an old swamp buck, and it hung probably 8 to 10 inches farther down than any other buck on the pole that year. And there's still a photo of it. You can see it hanging down from there. It's just a giant deer. But then there's another photo of me probably at like 10 years old standing next to a new constructed deer blind that really takes me back to that time. You know what I mean? I'm 44 now, so that was a long time ago. I'm not going to try to do the math because I'm not really it's so awesome. Cool. Those photos are awesome, man. And like you said, everyone asks about them. They come up.
I love and I really love like the old photos too. That's just like, just seeing what people were wearing and the old trucks that are in the background and like all of that stuff. It was like no one took pictures of deer in the woods before. Like all the old, they were all on tailgates or on a pole. That's how it's funny to look back at those.
Yeah, I remember back then we would ride around, going from, back when there wasn't houses everywhere and we could actually do deer drives around here. You'd ride in the back of, there'd be 8-10 guys with rifles in the back of a pickup, decked in orange like pumpkin, driving, going from property to property, pushing deer, and it was no big deal. You did that now, you'd be about five minutes down the road at the most.
Yeah, man. That was yeah, that's a cool aspect of it. And the one thing like here, luckily, like I said, I live still very remote, and there's still some of that stuff that goes on. It's not as frequent, but I definitely I don't know if it's just because I'm involved in it as much and I talk about it as much, but I feel like there is a resurgence with deer camps, and I'm hoping that they become they become what they were before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of, we've got make deer camp great again, and I'm pushing to make deer camp great again. I mean, let's,
Yeah.
it can be two guys in a truck going to a state forest. It doesn't have to be, the high fluting lodge with lobster tail and all that, on the menu. It can be anything. I actually prefer the you know, more like what we grew up with kind of deer camp. And I do believe everybody wants a deer camp. They just don't
Yeah.
know how to obtain or find a deer camp, and that's and I really don't know how. That's kind of why I'm doing this. How do we make this like so that more people can be involved in it?
Yeah, and that's I've been thinking about that too, because like even the prices of camps are crazy compared to what you're getting. Like it's just like seeing the price of them. Like I get it, and it's like because in the past, people were picking up camps for a few $1,000s, and a few guys would chip in on it, and that's how a lot of these camps had started. And it's like my grandpa had he talked about it in that CVA film we did called Deer Camp here recently. He was like he bought that camp and the property for $2,000, and it's just like crazy to think like you can't do that now. The one thing is like deer camp is now having the place is definitely makes it a little bit sweeter, but it's more about the people than it is the place per se. And I think like whether it's renting Airbnbs, whether it's uh, or going to campgrounds and setting up tents or campers or whatever. Like I think finding any way to kind of get it started, and then if you have a goal of like you really want to buy one at some point and working towards that, you can do it. It's definitely not as easy as it was before to get into it. But I think there are some creative ways to still have those experiences and continue those traditions.
Yeah, absolutely. That the Airbnb thing's a great idea. I never even thought about that. That's you find it by some decent land and throw a few guys together, and there you go. You've got a deer camp.
Yeah, I guess it was 4 years ago now. I bought a place that I turned into an Airbnb just for that reason, for people that wanted to have a deer camp but didn't or couldn't buy one or do anything there, to be able to come up and have that experience and be able to rent it out. And it was just like I saw it from the standpoint of like the one thing that is tough with deer camps is if you typically to be able to buy a deer camp, you need multiple people to go in on it. And everyone's idea of what a fair share of work is or putting in money for renovations is always different. And that's really tough. Whereas when you rent a place, you don't have to do that work. You're not having to have, those work parties, which I love all that stuff to be able to do that. But I understand that it's tough to find like-minded people together that have the same goals and to work towards it. So that gives that element of it. Like I should be drawing an Iowa tag this year. And like, I did a scouting trip there, and I like purposely was looking for Airbnbs that like fit the camp vibe of it, and got to know the person that owned this place, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come back, and they had literally like a barn there to hang deer in. They said I could use. I was like, perfect, like this is it, like this is gonna be my deer camp when I come here.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm hoping to draw Iowa this year too. So
Nice.
Good luck to you as well. I'm jacked, man. Every time everyone says Iowa right now, I think I get this ear to ear smile I just can't get rid of because
I know.
Because I've never been, so I'm like I'm the guy that thinks there's 180s around every corner. So
I've never been there either. Like that was the
okay.
first. I've never drawn the tag or anything, so this would be my first time too. And that's what. And I don't know. I was seeing the sign. I was like, man, this is pretty freaking awesome. It was like you look at a map and you're like, oh, this looks like a good spot. You go there and it's a good spot. It's like, all right.
It's not like Michigan where this looks like a good spot. And I walk in, it's like, I don't think a deer's been in here in 25 years.
Yeah. And so I think the pressure will dictate what actually will end up being good spots or not. I don't know. I've heard that the hunting pressure can be tough on some of those public pieces. And when you have someone that's, spending 5-6 points to draw, like they're going to be hunting hard. So like it's not as much of, you're finding a lot of hard hunters that you're going to be, competing against essentially in the woods. But I can't wait to hopefully draw that tag. It was funny. I was looking at my account the other day and I was like, wait, it said something about last year's was voided. I was like, does that mean I didn't get a point? So I called the DNR office. They're like, oh no, it just hasn't been updated yet. It'll get updated when applications go live in May. And I was like, okay, all right, just making sure. I was like,
yeah, because I've got 5, so I have 5 going in with 6. Hopefully, we should draw with 6. I'm pretty sure, but I guess it kind of depends on what zone you're going to. I'm going to go to zone 4.
Okay, yeah, it all depends, I think. But like last year, I had 5 points and I didn't draw. But I know a bunch of buddies that had the same amount of points and they did draw. So I think it's kind of up in the air thing.
Okay. Yeah. Because Iowa, it's like 2% of the state's public land, right? It's not a lot.
No. And like from my scouting trip there, I learned that there is a lot of public pieces, but they're small and kind of spread out. So like, that was my goal, just like finding as many as possible of good spots. So then I'm like, I go and there's a truck here. Okay, go to the next one, and just like trying to find contingency plans to check out. And it was different for me because I'm so used to hunting big woods areas. Like I'm automatically drawn to the areas that had a lot of timber, and I've been trying to change my frame of mind of like looking at other stuff that I wouldn't typically hunt because I just haven't hunted it before. So it's trying to find a different frame of mind, because Iowa does have like such a diverse like habitat in their public land. You can find anything from wide open CRP and pine draws that are coming down through to actual big woods pieces with some terrain and swamps and marshes and just traditional ag flat ground stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of everything that you can find there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm not pretty excited. I'm ecstatic. That's
I can see it on your face, man. Yeah, I feel the same way.
I'm ecstatic. Are you in it to win it? I mean, are you going till hopefully you kill?
That's the plan. That's the plan. I think I'm gonna kind of schedule 2 weeks to be there, but I do have flexibility a little bit, so of like seeing what the weather's doing and stuff. But I'm planning on being there until I shoot something. So Thanksgiving comes, whatever's
first.
Yeah, I got to be home for Thanksgiving. So, but that's kind of like, with now doing the podcast and stuff for a living, it's great because I have more flexibility on time. But in the same respect, like I'm not a person that really enjoys like just jumping from place to place to go. Like I want to truly immerse myself in wherever I'm going and experience it. Like I did when, a few years ago when I was taking vacation from work to go. It was like, I'd planned basically like one out of state trip, because it was like, this is what I'd rather spend 10 days here versus like, oh, I'm going to go 3 days here, 3 days there. And that's just my own personal preference, that I like to immerse myself in that. And that's what I'm like, I was kind of like, it's once every 5, 6, who knows, might be 7 or 8 years by the time I draw it again. And I want to give it my all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I hate to say, I might go back, or not go back. I might try it with a gun next time, depending on how this all goes this time, being that you can get a gun in like 2 years out
Yeah.
there. So, I mean, I'm not too proud to not shoot going with a gun.
Oh, dude, I'm an opportunist, man. Like I think like for me, I do really want to hunt the rut and experience that. And everyone that's an Iowa resident I've talked to has been trying to talk me out of it. They're like, man, that's when all the pressure's there. I was like, yeah, but you got to understand, like, I want to experience a Midwest rut where like you got bucks running around everywhere. Like maybe that means I don't shoot as big of a buck as I could if I was out there trying to pattern a specific one early or late or whatever. But for me, I want to, that's the experience I want, you know?
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's cool. Hopefully we're both holding big, giant Iowa deer this fall. That's
That would be awesome, dude.
kind of my plan, but we'll see. My plans usually fall apart. So, what, how about one Western hunt real quick? Like one of your favorite Western hunts?
Yeah. So let me think here. So there's two of them that come to mind. My first elk is, I guess, yeah, I'll tell that story because so I started going out west in 2016, hunted Colorado 2016, 2017, 2018 with like over 30 days in the mountains and never releasing an arrow. Just struggled, just trying to find elk, trying to learn elk hunting in general. It took a while to learn it. And I don't think it was as much about the place, but like I ended up going to Idaho in 2019. And now I definitely think that at the time, you know, Idaho was a little better than Colorado was, but I gained a lot of experience through this time. And if you know, my personality with my buddies is like, I'll be a jackass a lot of times. And just like, I sent a waypoint that I marked on a map and I titled it 100% chance bull down. And it was a complete joke. Like I'm just being funny with those guys. And I ended up shooting a bull 40 yards away from that waypoint, which is hilarious that it worked out that way. But it was just like everything actually looked perfect. It was like there was water there. There was north facing slopes for where they'd be bedding at. There was a big saddle that led into it. It was just like everything looked picture perfect, but typically everyone else finds those spots too. So it's never as good as you would hope. But that first day we got in there, and this was the first time I had like maybe the second time I had a full like 2 weeks of vacation that I was going to be there. And me and my cousin and my buddy drove out, and it was like 40-hour drive. It was terrible. And we got there in the middle of the night and that I slept in the next day to try to get some sleep since we drove straight through and went up in the afternoon and heard a bugle right before dark coming from that area. And I was like, oh, like sweet. Next morning, I'm going to get up there before light. And it was a terrible hike up into this spot. But we got up there before light, and right as light was cracking, this big bull was coming across this meadow, and he went in and bedded on that north facing slope. And I was like, all right, let's wait for the wind and the thermals kind of settle down mid-morning. And I'm going to try to get close to him and call at him to see if I can get him up out of his bed. Cause I didn't see any cows or nothing, just him alone heading there. And so we moved over on this other side where we didn't think our wind would blow him out, but just was sitting there glassing. And all of a sudden I started seeing more elk funneling through that saddle coming down, and a smaller bull, but a nice 5-point. And at that point I was just like, my goal, I'd never shot an elk before. I'm like, I want to shoot any bull. And it was funny. It was the first time I ever had a hunt filmed as well. And my camera guy, Justin, was behind me, and these elk started coming across this meadow, and I went to full draw and I was like aiming at the spike, and he's like, were you going to shoot that spike? I was like, I was pretty close. He's like, the other bull, the bigger one, was only, 80 yards behind him and coming this way. And I was like, yeah, but man, you understand, it's been 4 years. Like I want to, and I ended up waiting and it was so crazy because it was like picture perfect, where you'd think like in a meadow, this bull comes out and he was exactly 60 yards, which is like when I'd walk out my back door and just like go to the edge of the patio and shoot to the target, it's exactly 60 yards. And it was just like, I felt like I'd done it over and over again. And I shot him, and the bull ran like 50 yards and piled up right in the middle of the meadow. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like 4 years of working at this just all came together in that one moment. And I sent an in-reach message out to my buddy and my cousin and this other guy that we'd met that was in the area as well, that was from Ohio. And they all came up to help pack it out. And it was like, we had that deer camp atmosphere there. We packed them out, got them back to the truck, drove back to our base camp, and just like enjoyed it. It was like day one essentially of the hunt for me. So at that point I just got to, go help out my buddies, and I had a mule deer tag, but I didn't put a whole lot of effort into it. I was just enjoying like helping them out, and just like, and also just like enjoying actually filling a tag, so it was super cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. That, I don't even know what to say. That's so cool. Yeah, that whole deer camp mentality in that aspect is just, everybody come together and help. That's just, it's like a barn raising, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, man. It's exactly right. And like, I think about it, like when we're deer hunting, someone gets one down, the text goes out to the family, and it's like, you drop what you're doing, you go help. And it's like,
yes,
I love that, man. And same thing. That's what, we did in that Western hunt there, and they were there all helping pack out, because that would have been terrible to try to get that out, by myself or with me and Justin, my camera guy there. Like that would have been, took multiple trips, and it was just not a fun place to get an elk out of. And with having 5 of us there, we were able to get it all out in one load. And I was just so thankful for them to be there and help. But like, yeah, that's the same way we do it with deer hunting. Like this past year, it felt like it was a really good year, but especially once I had tagged out, it was even better of like, I was just waiting for people to call or text of like, because typically what would happen is like with our family is, if once people start filling their tags, they'll call them first to see if they want to help. And then, just so they don't bother someone else that's hunting, but to be able to go and do it. But when my cousin Mason shot one, it was October 18th. So it was the first one that anyone in the family shot. And I was in a tree, and he called me, and I'm like, what the heck's he doing calling me while I'm hunting? I was just like, he's supposed to be at work. What's he doing? He knows I'm hunting. And I'm like, wait a second. No, he's off on Fridays now. And I'm like, there's only one reason he's calling me, so I answered the phone, and I was so excited that I started packing up my stuff to go help him. And I completely disconnected all my ropes from the tree in my saddle and was just standing on my platform. And I don't like heights to begin with. And then I freaked out and like hugged the tree. I'm like, I was like free floating on this platform. I don't even know how I did it and didn't fall, but I was so like messed up in the head because I was so excited that I just wasn't even thinking of what I was doing at the time.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I know that feeling. Whenever I shoot, I don't get buck fever normally, like until afterwards, but I get it so bad that I get these like lower back spasms that I've got to make sure I'm like secure, or I might fall out of where I'm at.
Well, I don't know if you do this, but I have a rule when even if I shoot a buck and I know it's like a good shot and I'm in a tree, I wait 45 minutes to even climb down to let myself calm down, because I don't trust myself going down the steps. And 2, it's just like, sometimes you don't know if you actually made as good of a shot as you think too. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb I have.
That's a great rule. I should probably take that, because I'm usually trying to jump out of the tree onto the deer as it's running away.
Oh, I love it.
Well, Beau, man, I really appreciate you taking the time today and coming on. What a great conversation, dude. I really think that we can make deer camp great again.
Dude, yeah. Like I said, man, I love what you're doing, and I love the message and the topics of conversation and everything. Keep it up, and I appreciate you having me on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you saying those kind words. If anybody wants to find you, where do they find you at?
eastmeetswesthunt.com has kind of links to everything there, but the East Meets West Hunt podcast available Spotify, Apple. My YouTube channel is just under my name, Beau Martonik, and also on the social media platforms. You can search either my name or East Meets West, and you'll find it.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man, and I'm sure we'll do this again sometime.
Sounds good, buddy.
Thank you for tuning in to the Habitat Podcast. We really do appreciate you guys coming back every week to get this awesome Habitat content. And we would appreciate it if you went to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us continue to grow and trend in the right direction, attract new listeners, and help us provide better content in the future. Guys, we have a website full of resources. We have a blog on the website. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all linked up at habitatpodcast.com. Our land plan services, merchandise, decals, hats, t-shirts, and I give away a free 5-inch decal to anyone who leaves us a review on Apple iTunes. Really appreciate it. I want to thank our partners, Downburst Cedars, Vitalize Seed Company, Morse Nursery, Packer Max Cultipackers, Stealth Outdoors, First Light Latitude Outdoors, United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties, and Exodus Outdoor Gear. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Habitat Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.